Today we want to share some of the findings from this year's HR Trends report, and I'm going to do that with my colleague Kyla through a couple of questions. So here we go.
So Ian, tell us a few of the key points from this year's BC HRMA HR Trends report.
So the Trends report was really interesting this year. It's the fourth year we've run it. It's always using the same format, so we get to see trends, and the trend this year was very, very much more optimistic. The past 2 years have been categorized by 1 year which was just a real negative. Everything was on the down, money was on the down, hiring was on the down, and HR budgets were on the down. Last year was more uncertain. It was a shift back, but it was still very much a defensive, uncertain kind of projection, so we knew things were going to be tight. This year the projections were positive. We saw a significant turnaround in organizations anticipating hiring, organizations anticipating their revenue growing. Of course, as we'd expect, the HR budgets aren't increasing at the same rate as those projections. That's always the case. However, we did see some money coming back into HR, and it's going to be necessary because the information that we were seeing suggests that it's going to get busy again really quite quickly in terms of the hiring world, trying to get the talent you need to solve your business challenges, the optimism the organizations putting investment to make the organizations go forward, trying to find the talent to match that. It's going to be some busy and challenging times out there.
So for people that are going through reading the Trends report, what should they pay attention to?
So there's a couple of things that really stuck out. One was what's the priority? And we don't have, it often reports lead to as many questions as they do answers, but the priority for the third year in a row has been building leadership capacity and increasing the capability of staff. So we're seeing that, and we're seeing that two ways. We know that organizations have held back on budget, so potentially it's been a need that has been underinvested for the last 2 years. So the need is still there, maybe the investment's falling. I think really understanding why is this staying a priority. Is it because the demands are moving faster than our capacity to develop people? Is it because we're not spending enough money? Is it because we haven't yet worked out the right practices to actually make a difference there? So we were left with a lot of questions around that whole leadership development piece, and so if leadership development is on your agenda and is something your organization is working with, I think it'd be worth paying attention to the fact that, not that just the fact that it's everybody else's priority, but it's been that way for 3 years, and so what is it that we need to learn to do well, what kind of investment is required in order to actually make a difference there and move that piece of the agenda forward. I think the other pieces are looking at within some of the areas that are not quite so highly scored. The highly scored ones are maybe the ones we'd expect, developing capability. What's an interesting shift as well is the movement back into more retention and engagement practice. In the previous years, we've seen a much tighter focus on performance management. Lots of organizations polishing off their performance practices, making sure they're getting every ounce of performance out of every individual in the organization because it's tight times. We saw a shift in the overall tone of the feedback this year that was more about actually we're looking to engage people through their own discretionary effort. We're looking to engage people through having interesting work opportunities. And so that tends to be the shift away from, well, we think people are going to stay because they've got no option, to actually now we need them to stay by choice. And so we're softening some of the approach, trying to make sure that we're connecting to people with really understanding what they want. And that's corroborated a little bit as well by external information. I saw something recently that suggested 1 in 3 Canadians is looking at changing jobs when the opportunity arises. So, organizations are paying attention to that, how they're having to shift that. I think that's another really key piece to be paying attention to. And then something else that has moved up the agenda a fair amount, and I think this is linked to the lack of resource that's going into HR, is the whole use of technology. We're seeing a significant boost in the number of organizations either that are looking to implement an HR management system for their first time or are actually looking to go beyond their standalone items and look for something that's integrated.
Okay, so Ian, tell us what was surprising about the HR Trends survey findings.
So the question we asked this year that was different was around, have you changed, are you intending to change? And what was really surprising was that 67% of organizations have either changed and intend to change again, or are looking at changing their HR structure. So it seems like we've known there's been a trend where HR's funding has been reducing year on year, and yet the workload and the range of things that are being looked after are getting bigger. So we've known there's been this imbalance of resource versus demand. It seems like it's hit a pinch point where just trying to do more with the same structure isn't working. So people are looking to radically reinvent exactly how their HR group is formed and how it delivers services out to the organization. So what was interesting was we're seeing the intention there. I don't know that we've seen the results yet. I think we're seeing people who are starting to work on that, but it was clear that it wasn't a case of we'll just put more onto the same organizational structure. We've actually got to look at it right from the grassroots radically differently to see how do we deliver HR to the organization with the resources and people we've got. So it was surprising the extent of that and just how deep it was across the whole piece. And then what's also going to be interesting is to see what comes from that. We're anticipating some very different looking HR groups in the next 2 to 3 years as people start to understand and come up with different innovative solutions. So something to look forward to.
Excellent. And if people would like a copy of the HR Trends Survey, where do they need to go?
They need to go to hrvoice.org and find the article and be able to download it from there. There'll also be copies in our online community for those who are members.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ian.